This is my OEM TRD Pro grill. I'm gonna be installing this on my TRD off-road. Again, I happen to have the off-road premium package, or maybe it's the technology package, whichever one gives you the front-facing camera. So I do have a camera to put in this spot. There are a ton of aftermarket grills out there. You have so many options, cheaper options. I personally decided to go with the OEM grill. I think if you don't have the front-facing camera, it's a lot easier to justify a third-party grill, but I didn't see a third-party solution that really handled the camera in a clean way, or a way that I was comfortable with. So I just wanted the cleanest possible solution for my truck. I think different dealers have these at different prices. I think the actual MSRP for this was like 140, 150 bucks. But then I also paid $70 shipping, which I guess there was no way around that. It came from across the country. That was just my situation. So it was like a total of like $225. Whatever, it was worth it to me. In case you're not aware of this, to actually buy an OEM part like this, you have to provide the VIN number of your truck. So if you don't have a TRD Pro, you're going to need to get a VIN number from somewhere else. And so I'm not saying that you should do that, but in theory, if you wanted to look at a website with one of these TRD Pros for sale that lists the VIN number, and then take that VIN number and submit it to a dealer when you order this part, you could do that. And I think that might work. So that's all I'm gonna say about that. But in any case, I have this OEM TRD Pro grill, and you can tell it's OEM. I mean, they've got the gray Toyotas. There is another version of this grill where the Toyota's all blacked out. I didn't want that, I wanted the gray. I like how it stands out a little bit more. And I have a gray truck, so I felt like it works. You can see where we're gonna mount the camera, where we're gonna mount the TSS. And this is it. This thing, it arrived just like this. I mean, it shipped well, in foam, in a good box. There was no damage at all. If anything, I don't know if you could tell on video, but it might be kind of dusty right now, and that's because I ordered this a year ago. I literally bought this grill and all the little components I needed for it a year ago, right after I bought my truck. I knew immediately when I bought my truck that I was gonna do this, that I wanted to do this, and it's just been sitting in my garage for a year, because while I knew I was gonna do this, it also just felt weird to be modifying my brand new truck. So I just told myself, okay, let's hold off on it for a while. Let's drive it bone stock, let's enjoy it. Let's get through the first couple visits to the dealer with Toyota Care and the maintenance and all that before I start, ripping things up. But now, look, I'm a year in, I've got 10,000 miles on the truck, so this is my little anniversary present. Oh, and the last thing I guess I should mention is I got this grill from EB Toyota. Okay, I think they're based on the East Coast, I think Massachusetts, if I remember my shipping label. EB Toyota, also known as Bach Toyota South, also now known as New Car Toyota. And I'll put a link or an image to that on screen. I had to go back because I bought this a year ago, and I can't remember why I chose that dealer. Like, they're all the way on the East Coast. It might have been because it was the cheapest price, I think. I mean, I think OEM, this goes between $200 and $300. At least that was a year ago too. Now that we've moved on to the 2024 Tacomas, I don't know if it's gonna be harder to come by these OEM parts for the 2023s. And that might have been part of why I wanted to buy this immediately, even though I knew I was gonna wait, is because I was scared that once the 2024s came out, it would be harder to get parts for the previous gen. This is my TSS sensor garnish. You have to buy this piece separate. It does not come with the grill, OEM or third party. Any website with Tacoma in the name, any of those third party websites, Tacoma, Garage, Taco, Vinyl, whatever. The question is, how much is it gonna cost? If you go OEM, you're looking at $200, $300, even more, which is just absolutely ridiculous, insane. Should not be that way at all. It's just a piece of plastic. I decided because it's just a piece of plastic, I was gonna go as cheap as possible for this piece. I didn't think it mattered. So I actually found this on Amazon. Don't even know the name brand. It's probably some Chinese junk, but it's just a piece of plastic. Okay, so I found this for $20 on Amazon. Now what you choose to do, that's up to you. I'll put a link to this. No matter which kind you get, there's these two little pieces here. I don't know what you call these, nuts, crimps, clamps, whatever. This is the Westcott Designs camera bracket. This is specifically for the OEM TRD Pro grill. You need this because if you have a non-TRD Pro, like me, I have a TRD off-road, the camera is mounted in a different place at a different angle. I don't know if you can get just the OEM version of this bracket, I don't know. I got this one from Westcott Designs. If you don't go with an OEM grill, there's probably other options, other problems. It's nice, I think it's powder coated. Looking at it, feeling it, this bracket was $20 from Westcott Designs, and I also paid another $10 shipping on top of that. And I believe they're based in Arizona, I'm in California. Didn't take too long to ship it out. But again, it's just a little piece of metal. It's probably overpriced, but whatever, it is what it is. I wanted to take an image of my camera orientation and view before I detach it because I want to compare to after the fact. Well, I got the body ties out. One of them was not too much of a fight, but the other was a and a half, and I wound up snapping this little piece. But worst case, it's a little piece of plastic. I can buy another one. Okay, well today I learned how a body clip works. Pull it out like this. Don't force it in or out unless you pop this apart. Okay, don't be like me. Don't be stupid. Another thing is you really want a socket to get these bolts out. It's really hard with just a wrench, but I do have like 30 degrees of freedom here where I could rotate. It's just gonna take time. Okay, got it off. It was a little bit more stressful than I wanted, but yeah, if you just suck it up and really pull the plastic out of all the clips and slots it's in, it comes right out once you got everything unclipped. I have to say, getting the electrical TSS connector off was a lot harder than I thought. You have to really push down on this clip. I guess it's on the other piece in the truck, but you have to really push down on it and then pull it off. But it's all right. All that needs to happen now is take the screws off the TSS sensor. There should be 3. There's 2 black ones on the side and 1 silver one up here. Then there's gonna be 8 black screws around the side of the grill, like this guy here, and those remove the grill from the shroud. I think, oh yeah, there's also some clips to dismount the wiring from the shroud. And I think it's in our best interest to preserve those. Oh, I'm a dipshit. I almost forgot about the camera. So I'm gonna have to dismount the camera as well. I wanted to make the general comment to be careful with this camera sheath on your TRD off-road grill. It's just so skimpy that literally just trying to pull the thing off, it like bent and broke. So that's irritating. I mean, you have to take this off to get the camera out, and it looks like it should be easy. It really wasn't hard at all, but it just snapped. I will say though, just the clip on one side, it's probably totally fine, and it's gonna be enough to still remount this to the grill and hold everything in place. You know, if you wanna reuse that old grill or sell it or give it away or something, I think it's still fine. Okay, I finally got my TSS sensor off. Just a few things. It was way harder than I thought. The body clips weren't too bad. Just get a flathead screwdriver under there, pry and pull, should be fine. The camera, the 2 screws mounting this camera bracket to the grill, and then the 3 screws mounting the TSS sensor to its fitment. were just like way more torqued than I thought they were gonna be. I almost couldn't get them undone by hand. There's 3 Phillips screws between the camera bracket and the TSS. Almost could not get it undone by hand. And I don't have a drill with me. I was about to be really pissed, but I got it. The 2 screws slash nuts, they're black on the sides for the TSS sensor. Could not do it with a screwdriver. Luckily, it's also a nut, and I was able to use my 10mm wrench to get the leverage and pop it off. And then once I broke the torque, I could just unscrew it with the screwdriver. But yeah, wasn't expecting that. Okay, old grill is out. Here's my shroud. Still looking good. Didn't break it, bend it, scratch it up. That's a win. And here's my old grill. Got it out, no real issues. You can see my badge is still attached. Gotta get that off. To get it off, I removed 10 screws. I read online there were 8. I went around and counted. I found 10 that I thought were necessary. Now maybe somehow I made a mistake and 2 of those weren't necessary, but I removed 10 and then it worked. All I had to do was squeeze all the clips out to separate it from the shroud and it popped out. That part was a little bit harder than I thought, but don't be too anxious. Just find one that wants to give, squeeze it, push it through. You'll see that the grill's starting to come off, and then I just worked my way around one at a time. And then eventually everything came out really easily. And now it's time to put everything back together, the fun part. Okay, here's the Pro Grill. First things first, TSS sensor garnish needs to go on. I'm gonna leave the plastic on, of course, until the end. So all this is gonna do is pop in from the front. You can't put it in wrong, there's only one way. The clips at the bottom slide in super easily, super nicely, and that holds it on. And now we have to put the star nuts on the top too. Now, this feels like it works so well. I don't know why it isn't just clips all around. Like I'm just pushing this with my fingers, pushing it up, and then I guess we're gonna put the nuts on. If I let go, it's kind of hanging. So I'm gonna have to do this with 2 hands. I'll come back in a sec. Literally 15 minutes later. That was so hard. I'm like sweating right now. I'm not even joking. Let me see, a 10mm wrench. And then I was even trying a 12 and a 13 just to get like different amounts of pressure around this ring. And I was like, pushing and pushing so hard using different sizes. And then I had to have my hand underneath on the other side, pushing back against it like so hard as I could with both hands from both directions at all kinds of different angles. And then to get one of these nuts like fully on, I had to maintain that for like several minutes because you're like working it around in different directions. It won't just slide on. It's like I had to go one side, the other side, all around and work it down. It was such a grind. And then even once you think you've got it on, I didn't want this sensor garnish to rattle at all. And unless this is like totally down all the way, flush and tight to the surface, the garnish will rattle. And so you have to get it all the way down. And oh my God, it's just so much work. I can't believe it is this way. I don't know why. It's just, this has been the most difficult thing by far. And I broke a couple pieces already, like I showed you on the old grill and stuff. But no, this is by far the most frustrating part. But like the real issue is, like I don't want to damage the grill. And so I'm sitting here like, I'm trying to push against only the TSS sensor. My hand was getting so sweaty, I almost peeled off the plastic that's protecting the other side of it. I was like, dude, I was scared of breaking. And then to get the wrench in, it's like, yeah, I could get this side really good with my right hand, and then to get in here, I had to turn the whole thing around and go the other way. I was getting so frustrated. You're also gonna need to unplug your camera before you can remove it from this bracket. And I'm having another and a half of a time to get this off. It's kind of like unplugging the TSS sensor from the truck. It's just like a crazy pinch right here and it's so tight. Okay, all I can say is give this little tab just a gentle squeeze with some pliers. It should pop open a little bit and then you can just pull the plug out. Unscrew those 2 screws there and then save them for when we remount into the new bracket. Okay, I got my camera mounted in my Westcott Designs camera bracket. Okay, so there's no longer that sheath on it from the old grill. It only goes in one way into the bracket, so you can't mount that wrong. And then you just put those 2 screws in from the other bracket. They feel a little weird going in, but they felt a little weird coming out, so I think it's fine. It's just kind of a tight screw to get in. All right, and then there's only one way for this to mount to the Pro Grill that makes sense, so you can't do it wrong. Okay, and I'm extremely surprised to find out that these two screw holes on the Pro Grill do not come pre-threaded. Okay, not only am I adding these bolts by hand, they're not threaded. I'm threading this in real time with my hand. This is fine, it worked for me, and I just was very slow. Tried to keep it normal at the axis, and I only tightened it such that the bracket will no longer wiggle. Okay, now it's time to mount the TSS sensor. So we're reusing all the same stuff from before. I've got these nuts that need to sort of lock in. Okay, I'll bring the TSS sensor over delicately. All right, and this should be similarly asymmetrical, meaning you cannot screw this up. This thing, you're gonna line it up in there. There's one over here, and then you can see the screw hole. Oh, and by the way, I figured out the issue with those nuts. Yeah, I had just slid them on by hand and stopped, but you have to keep pushing and they'll make a nice pop. And then they slide all the way over, so it should look totally flush and nice. Wanted to say for the record one more time, this screw on the top of the TSS sensor is another screw hole that was not pre-threaded. I had to do that by hand, be slow and careful. First, I attached these bolts on the side just to make sure everything was stable and locked in as I was doing this. And then I just went by hand here until I looked from the side and saw it was flush with the sensor. Also, after tightening these two by hand with a screwdriver, I just came in with my 10mm wrench and torqued it just a little bit. Very last thing is I had to take some tiny little needle nose cutter plier things and snip the upper of the two cable ties. There's a second one down here. This is gonna clip in with this clip here. So when you're removing from your old grill, like I tried to save both, really you only need to save this one down here. But it's really important to save this one so you can clip in, have good cable management. The other one, I don't think it matters at all. You can totally destroy it because I don't see how you're gonna route this cable up to the camera without cutting that. Okay, just went back around and screwed in all the screws I took out before. There's gonna be one that you don't attach right by the camera, and that's just because the camera's there. I also realized I screwed up before by taking out this screw and this screw. I think that was unnecessary. I think that attaches the shroud to the painted plastic panel. Okay, I got the shroud back in or on the truck. First thoughts, I think it's looking fantastic, but I wanted to give just some quick advice. Don't force this. It should go back in easily and a lot easier than it was to get it off. Okay, if you force it, like there's slots on both sides and all along the bottom where you need to make sure the shroud lines up and it all just kind of pops in at once, all right? I was doing it wrong at first, and if you do it wrong, like it'll just look misaligned, and this is good, but it will look misaligned and messed up. And if you look down across the bottom, this should all be like totally flush and sealed up. Nothing should be sticking out. Okay, so just pay close attention before and after. Go slow, be careful, it should be easy. And then at the top, like everything should have lined back up where this should be able to pop back on there, pop back on there. You know, like your holes for your bolts there should be totally flush. Okay, and we're all good. Okay, let's do this together. Let's make it quick and let's hope for good luck because it's hot as hell in this car. Wow, no issues. Hood ajar because my hood is ajar. Okay, that just pissed me off, I'm sorry. My recording stopped midway because as my car turned on, it connected to Bluetooth and then took over my phone and stopped me from recording. It was playing music or whatever. We have no warnings or any issues on the dash coming from connecting or disconnecting the TSS or the camera, so it seems like it thinks everything's there. But now the final moment of truth is to check the camera alignment and just make sure there's nothing weird going on. So I'm gonna press my view button. Okay, and then here we are. Okay, so it's definitely right side up. It seems fine. Yeah, like if I look at the right corner, it's touching, those are two suitcases there. It's a black suitcase and a blue suitcase. It's kind of like almost right in the middle of them. And then when I look at the 360, it seems like that right corner is exactly in the same spot. I know it's super smeared and distorted on the 360 view, but I think it's matching. So like, this seems like it's aligned correctly. Now as far as has the view changed, I'm going to have to just compare footage side by side. I don't think I could tell by looking at this, but I'm gonna compare this video to the video I took earlier and just see where those lines lined up, and then compare the field of view and make sure everything's the same. One thing to mention about putting it all back together is I was able to get this brown clip back in, just kind of cable management here. But there's also a white clip there that's supposed to go into this hole, and I cannot get it to reach without feeling like I'm stretching the cable too much. And I think it comes from the fact that we used this body tie to clip in to the grill there, because that's a different spot than on the last grill. And it just makes it so there isn't enough slack to get this clip back. I think it's fine though, because you still got this one here. So really the cable hanging there, it's fine. I mean, it's secured. There's no slack really in it. It's not gonna go anywhere. It's not gonna hit anything. I think it's really up to you to pick your poison. I guess you could totally ignore all this stuff we did trying to save this body tie connected to the grill. If you just wanna use the white clip instead and get this part back how it was. Badge, check. And now, oh yes. Oh yes, sweet ecstasy. After a long afternoon, it's been almost 3 or 4 hours, I'm not proud to admit that, but we're done. I'm gonna have to take her out for a drive. Sheesh, we did it. Thank you everybody for joining me on this journey to install this new grill on my Tacoma. I'm so happy I'm done. I think it looks incredible. It took all day, but it was worth a couple hours of work. I hope this helps somebody. Let me know if you have any questions, and have a great day. Last little tidbit of things that I either broke or no longer need because they were part of the old grill. Here we go. This is the old camera bracket, no longer needed. There's a body tie clip thing that I snipped so I could reroute the, oh come on, focus. So I could reroute the wiring, an extra screw, this little broken piece from the old camera sheath, and this is part of the body tie.